So, what I want to suggest is that your attention is a valuable asset. It will never be on a balance sheet. It will never be in a trust. It will never be something that you can leave to someone else, something that can be inherited by your children or your descendants or your loved ones. And certainly your ancestors' attention is not necessarily something that you can live on. So it's not that kind of asset. I guess in a poetic way, it could be considered a transferable asset, but that's really not the point I'm making. So I'll leave that point alone. What I'm saying is that in your daily life, as a person in a body living in this world, your attention is an asset and it's extremely valuable. Don't hand it over so quickly. Don't hand it over so easily. Strengthen the muscle of training your attention and focusing your attention. Play with training your attention. This is not about perfecting anything. It's, attention is amorphous. It doesn't have a shape necessarily. It's not a tangible thing, but it is an experiential thing, and it does facilitate a lot of other things that do become tangible. If you're focusing your attention in a certain way, your life begins to look a certain way. The way that we focus our attention shapes our beliefs. And our beliefs obviously shape our behavior. Also, the way that we use our attention or allow our attention to be used, allow our attention to be hijacked, allow ourselves to be distracted, or whatever language you want to use. My goal is not to trigger anybody or to shame anybody. But I'm suggesting that even in a situation where you feel powerless or like you don't have enough or you're not enough, you still have your attention, which is a huge asset. It's kind of like being able to breathe. And the ability to breathe, to inhale and exhale, is such an incredible and enormous asset. But because of the way that language works and hierarchy and status and narratives and meaning making works, we can't fully appreciate the magnitude of that asset, of the asset of just being able to breathe, the asset of just being alive. And similarly, we have a hard time recognizing the asset of our own attention. It's like, well, is attention going to put food on the table? Not necessarily immediately. Like, you can't cash in attention for goods and services necessarily. There are a few steps in between, obviously. There are a few steps in between. But nonetheless, your attention is a huge asset. Your attention shapes your belief, and your belief shapes your behavior. So I was mentioning in another video a saying from one of my teachers, Catherine Woodward Thomas. She said, if there's something happening in your life and it's something you don't want, and I'm paraphrasing, something unwanted, and this other person is 95% responsible, or maybe she said 97% now that I'm thinking of it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the idea is someone else may be 97% responsible for this awful thing happening in your life. She said, put 100% of your attention on your 3%, or 95%, 5%, whatever you want to call it. The point is, even if you have a minuscule amount of impact, agency, put 100% of your attention on your part, because you can't change what they do. You can change what you do. Recapture your own attention speaks to that. Where are we placing our attention? Where are we placing our attention? And are we devaluing that asset because we can't cash it in at the pawn shop? We can't take it to the bank and get cash in exchange for our attention. We can't cash it in. You know, you can sell your blood, you can sell your time, you can sell your hair, you can scour your living environment and sell objects, but you can't sell your attention to put food on the table. I know for myself, throughout my life, I have felt like certain things that were incredibly valuable seemed to have no value at all because they were not exchangeable for money. I didn't get it. And the mentality that we cultivate as working class and middle class folks, yeah, I'm questioning it. It's rough. It's really rough. How do we translate our gifts and our actual assets? The asset of breath, the asset of life, the asset of attention, the asset of intelligence, the asset of being able to make sense of things, the asset of creativity. I mean, this goes on and on and on. How many movies have we watched about some talented, young, naive person who stumbles into the big city and gets taken advantage of by some manager or producer or somebody who recognizes that person's asset, convinces them that the asset isn't really worth much, and then basically plunders that creative, talented person and sells the asset for their own benefit. How many times have we seen that story? That tragic Hollywood story about the musicians and the artists of the world. Similarly, we have an asset in our attention. We have an asset in our attention. And in time, we will begin to understand the value of this asset. The powers that be and the hyper wealthy overlords, they already understand it because we're the ones Why, if we're in the majority, what's going on? If the working folk are in the majority, what's going on? Well, we believe, because we've been conditioned in a certain way, we believe that we have to keep certain systems in place. We've been conditioned to believe that. And the more we hand over our attention, the more that gets set in stone. So I think embodiment work is revolutionary because it does highlight conversations about identity, personhood, value, time, rhythm, integrity, belonging, power. And the more you hang out in this place where you recognize your so many words are coming to mind now. It's like a traffic jam in my brain. I'll just say recognize your own sense of personal agency. When you recognize that, yeah, it's a lot harder to just plunder and pillage your mind and life and the intangible assets of your intelligence and your attention and your energy. I remember when I was working full-time at one of my jobs, because I haven't really had that many in my adult life. I spent a lot of my life laboring as a self-employed person, but I did have 3 full-time jobs. And during one of these jobs, I took the job in part because I was on a mission to pay off my debt. Like I was maniacally dedicated and devoted to paying off my debt. And so I took this full-time job. And then I was also doing freelance work at night and on the weekend. So I was working a lot of hours. It was so hard to do that. But I learned a lot about myself and about the power of my mind and about the value of my attention. And I'm still learning. Being in certain spaces can be draining. It's so interesting how energy works. You can be, I'm laughing because this happened to me a few weeks ago. You can be feeling, energized and, full of life and vitality and optimism. And you can be in a setting where you're exposed to language, ideas, beliefs, and thoughts for a few hours. And then you cross a threshold where your battery just starts draining really, really quickly. And it's like an energetic nosedive. And you can leave that place feeling like, oh my God. Oh my God. You can barely see straight. So it can be challenging to pull off the whole side hustle thing. Because if you're in a place where you're working there and you're feeling drained at the end of that day, and now you have to go do another shift, it really can take a lot out of you. And I had some awful symptoms, physical symptoms, after living that life. Awful, which I I won't get into right now because that could take another half an hour. But I learned a lot about the value of my creativity, of my attention, of my intelligence. I learned a lot about what I was handing over in this relationship, in this setting as an employee. I wasn't just showing up and doing the tasks on the list. I was offering me, my ingenuity, my problem-solving ability, my creativity, my language, my poetry, and my attention, my time. Wow. Yeah, I handed over a lot. We all do. So my sneakily rebellious revolutionary work is to offer embodiment as an answer to that. Embodiment does seem to be wrapped in a very lovely lilac gift wrapping of relaxation and peace. But it is actually rebellion in progress. It's saying no. I'm recapturing my own attention. I'm training my focus. I'm doing some jujitsu metaphorically. I'm doing some martial arts metaphorically. I'm strengthening my muscle metaphorically. I'm training my attention. I'm intervening. I'm learning to train my own attention here. And I'm going to direct my focus. And I'm going to watch and become curious about my beliefs and my behavior and the shape my life is taking. It all begins with the willingness to engage with this asset that everyone's trying to convince you, oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, just binge watch this and do that and, spend time on this. And your attention matters. Your attention does matter. And the more you realize that, the more delicious an embodiment practice will become for you. Because you'll understand that in the doing of it, you're unenmeshing. Is that a word? I think of it as like you're unenmeshing yourself from this assumption that your attention doesn't matter. You're beginning to see things more clearly. You're beginning to stand in your power, metaphorically, sit in your power, metaphorically, engage with your power and your agency and your sense of self and being able to do, and going from the I can't to the I can, not just in service to the person that you're taking orders from at work or even in your business, because how many of us do that? We replicate the dynamics from the employee life and replicate them in the entrepreneurial life. We don't maintain owner's mind. So this is about maintaining owner's mind, sovereignty, agency. It doesn't mean that you don't collaborate. It doesn't mean that you don't create mutuality and mutual respect. But it does mean that you don't just blithely hand your mind and body over to another entity. And I think a lot of this begins with our attention. Sharing this with whoever finds it interesting, whoever understands it, whoever might be thinking about some of these things also, I just want you to know I'm thinking about them too. So if we haven't met before, my name is Bridget, and I am the host of Thriving in Plain Sight, a podcast where we do a weekly embodiment practice and just take a little time and drop our shoulders and reconnect with the present moment. And I'm also a coach supporting people who are invested in and curious about approaching life and work in a more embodied way. Thank you for being with me today, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.